Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well. Good afternoon and welcome aboard. Wow, we got a couple of questions already. Um, a lot of people have asked me where I get ideas for videos. And number one, I get them from you folks. People ask me questions, and I have a big old long list of videos I'm going to do based on those questions. But another place that I get ideas for videos is from the Vectric tutorials and some of their videos that they put on like Facebook stories or Instagram and things like that. Because I've noticed something about them. What they will do is they will briefly gloss over something as if everybody knows that this is a thing. And specifically, the video that came out this morning was one of those things. It was a case of they just kind of showed this in the background of another video, and it went by so quickly that I can't even find that video. I don't even remember which video I saw it in, but it was how to add a custom background into your preview so that you could kind of manipulate that preview and put it in place on that photo and take a preview image there within the software and send it to the client and say this is what it'll look like in situation. And that was just so brilliant to me, but I searched and I searched and I searched and I could not find any further information on it. So what I tend to do is I'm kind of like a dog on a bone with that. I will not let it go. And I have a tip for y'all. I forgot to put a link to it in the description of this video, but I'll do that. I use a screen capture software called Flashback Express by a company named Blueberry Software. And whenever I'm doing something like that, especially when it has to do with settings, I will go ahead and I'll turn on that software and I will screen record everything I'm doing in the settings. So if I make a mistake, I can go back and review that video and see exactly what I changed and put it back. Not only what I changed, but where the heck it was located. So just a little quick tip there. If you're getting into something, getting into, lifting the hood on the software and getting into the nuts and bolts, get that screen capture software and record yourself doing that so you have a reference to go back to, because it's happened to me more than once. I can't remember where I turned something off, and then it's an annoyance for several months until I accidentally happen upon it again. So I just started getting into the settings and the options and trying to figure out how the heck to get that image for that preview window. And I just kind of lucked into it because even going through the user's guide, they allude to it, but nothing tells you how to do it. So that was the inspiration for this morning's video. So, and I certainly will do that. I'll add the name of the software and I'll put a link to them in the description. Not sponsored. This is nothing to do with with me. I don't make anything. It's free software, so but it's very, very handy. So because it's one of those things that kind of saves me from myself. I mean, I don't know about you, but if you've ever gotten in and changed a setting and then can't remember where the heck you found that setting, it's become invaluable. So, anyhow, back to this morning's video, rather, that gave me the inspiration to go in, dig in, and try to figure out how the heck they did this. Because as I said, I never found any other reference to it. I went over to the Vectric support forum and I found some questions back in 2008, 2009 asking about it, and it was not an option at that time. This was an option they added in version 9.5. And I'm talking about going into edit and then program options, and then having a place to put the path to the image that you want to use for a background. You could change the gradient, you could change the color of the gradient, but there was no way to add an image. So they added that in version 9.5 and later. And it has come in handy since I discovered how to use it, because now my wife wants to know, well, what would it look like if we did this? And so I'll change it and do that and do the other. But as far as creating an image for the thumbnail for this video, and as an image to use for the video, I just took a picture of the back of my house and used that, and then took the barn star that I made a couple of years ago, that pattern, and previewed it for that. That's relatively straightforward. I do need to make a couple of corrections, though. And you might think this is splitting hairs, but it does matter. The person who called me on it was absolutely right, and it was just, I misspoke. Well, I called it a forward slash. It's actually a backslash. Now, you might think that's splitting hairs, but it does make a difference. If you use a forward slash, which is actually the key, the same key as the question mark on your keyboard, it won't work. You have to use the backslash, which is up just underneath the backspace button. So there is that. When it comes to adding, let me go ahead and go over, do a screen share here. When it comes to adding textures to the software, let the slow computer catch up here. Come on, boy, you can do it. There we go. All right. Just takes it a minute. When it comes to adding texture bitmaps over here, I showed, let's go down the drop down menu here. I showed adding a texture down here. Now you can do it that way, and it does work. But what ends up happening is I ended up with that located in the list up at the top, and it was listed twice. Now, for me, that cleared up after I restarted my computer to do something else, and then opened up Aspire. It went away up here. Now, your mileage may vary. It may take a couple of times, because when you first start this, when you first start the software, it will access this, but it doesn't purge itself. It will access the folder, which is right here. It will access the folder and it'll catalog everything in it, but it won't purge the old stuff. It may take a couple of times, but eventually it will clear that up. What I found the easiest way, the best way to do this is, if you notice, I have a bunch of different pieces here that I have changed. You know, I have a horizontal and I have a vertical, horizontal, vertical here. I found the best way to do this is to close VCarve or Aspire, then do these modifications as I showed in the video, but do it with when the software isn't running. Then when you start the software, it will access the folder and update the database for the folder. And all these changes will be reflected when you go up here. And you see, I have a bunch of, there's Paduke horizontal, Paduke video, Pine horizontal, Pine video, vertical, not video, vertical dummy. I haven't done all of them, obviously, but I did enough trying to see, would it keep adding it up here at the top? And I found that by doing these modifications with the software not running, doing it, like I said, just open in Paint, rotate it, save it as a new image, And then I renamed the other one, and that worked out fine. It's not listed multiple times in the list. And well, so those are a couple of corrections that I needed to make there. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward as far as getting getting the new texture bitmaps into the software and using wooddatabase.com. It's probably one of the better sites I have found as far as information on a type of wood, whether there's any kind of a sensitivity that's associated with it, meaning like a skin sensitivity or respiratory sensitivity associated with that wood. Because there are some woods that they list in the database that, believe me when I say, you do not want to breathe any of the dust in from these. They will cause you no end of problems. There are some that are downright toxic for everybody, whether you're sensitive to it or not. It just depends on what it is. For instance, I believe it's called, the Hawaiians call it sandbox wood. It is flat out toxic. And some people call it the 1, 2, 3 wood, because you inhale it once, there may not be a problem. You inhale it twice, you may have an issue. If you inhale it the third time, you're going to have to change your clothes. Let's just leave it at that way. So that not only that, it has other toxic properties to it that are just, flat out poisonous. But it also provides information on workability, whether it holds hardware well, any special finishing considerations. It's an excellent site if you're using a wood that's new to you. So that's I think I already put a link to it in this video description of this video. If not, I will make sure that it's there as soon as we're done live here. But that's a wood-database.com. And just basically, whenever I'm working with a new wood, I Google that wood, and it's usually one of the top selections if they list it. And they have an extensive collection of woods there. It's really a good site. Okay, let's go ahead and get into some of your questions. Ayal Peleg says, hello from Israel. Hi, hello. Quick off-topic question. What wood type did you use for building the base and table for your Gatton? Would pine be okay, or are there wood stability issues? I built mine out of standard construction grade lumber. Over here, that's here in the US, that's a 2x4. I don't know about the standard construction material that's in your country. That would be, what would that be? That would be about 50 millimeter by 101 millimeters, something to that effect. So it's just standard framing lumber. And here, a lot of people call it pine, and it may be pine. Some of it is southern yellow pine. But I'm in softwood country here in the Pacific Northwest, and they cut pine, spruce, or fir. And so it could be any of those three. But it's just standard framing construction lumber. The difference is, whenever I use any kind of construction lumber, I let it acclimate to the area that it's going to be used. And just simple economics, when I was building my machine, I bought the material to make my stand, and you can see it right behind me there. There have been no stability issues at all. But I bought it, and it sat in the shop and acclimated for probably close to 2 months before I ever started the first cut. Now, that's not necessarily required, not for that long anyway, but generally speaking, when I buy lumber, I try to put it as close to where it's going to be used as possible and let it acclimate to that area for at least a week. um, preferably 2. But as I said, just I had it available. I had the cash available. Some of it was on sale. I went down, I grabbed it before I was ready for it, and it sat in the shop for about 2 months before I made the first cut on it. And I haven't had any wood stability issues at all. It is braced and counter braced and glued together and screwed together and everything else. So I tried to orient grain directions to where they would try to counteract one another if it did warp or try to warp or twist. The legs, for instance, are not made of a 4x4. It's 2 2x4s. And looking at the end grain, the growth rings are opposite one another, so that if it tries to twist, one should try to hold the other back from twisting. And then I glued the surfaces together and glued and screwed those surfaces together. So it's not going anywhere. And I haven't had any issues at all. And that stand is 4 years old. So, in fact, November will be 5 years old. Yes, November will be 5 years old. So, yeah, pine would be okay. Now, obviously, the better bet would be if you have the skills, if you have the resources, a metal table and frame would be less prone to any kind of warp or twist or wood movement of any kind. But not everybody has those skills and not everybody has those tools. And the Gatton CNC being a machine that is designed to be, well, technically it was designed to sit on a table. It's a freestanding unit. But I incorporated mine into a stand that I built for it, and it's all glued and screwed together. So, you know, a metal stand would be less susceptible to that kind of warping or twisting or wood movement, but it's not entirely necessary. You know, most people make a CNC router for woodworking, and the stand, I can't say that it affects really the rigidity of the machine. That's more in that would have more to do with flex and the gantry. But I'm here to tell you that's a nice stout machine. It's a very stout machine. I mean, there are metal machines that aren't as rigid as this. So, you know, what can you say? But yeah, your mileage may vary. And try it. And if you don't like it, you can change it. So, Wolfram Herzog says good source for cheap lumber is old furniture from a thrift shop. You can buy the cheapest, most ugly pieces because they're disassembled anyway. Well, that's true. But as far as materials for milling, that makes a lot of sense. For construction materials, that like for building the stand for this CNC, I just use standard construction lumber. So let's see here. RB Woodwork says you must have picked through the pile pretty well. If I let any 2x4 set around more than a couple of days, it's not usable from twisting, even if it's stacked. Buy kiln dried lumber. Now, there's a couple of things people don't know about kiln dried construction lumber. It is kiln dried down to below 20%. That's still not good enough for furniture quality, but it's good enough for construction grade because it's going to interact with other bracing within the house or the structure and keep from twisting or turning. Ideally, and that's one reason why you let it acclimate to the area. It's going to get rid of some moisture, but it's not going to come down to the 8 or 10% that we prefer for furniture making or what have you. But it reduces the amount of warp and twist. So, okay, let's see here. Donna Botello says, if I'm only removing excess epoxy off the top of a wood sign, Do I need to use my spoil board with my vacuum table, or can I remove the spoil board and place directly on the M1000 vacuum table? Yes, if you're just machining the surface and you're not cutting through, you can certainly do that. You can certainly do that. You're probably going to have to cover up other areas or on the vacuum table so you get maximum suction right there on that piece of material, but you probably already know that. Yeah, the only time to be concerned about the vacuum table is if you're going to be drilling holes or cutting into it. So, yes, you certainly can. In fact, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that's what Shane Peters does. I think he runs a vacuum table. I may be wrong on that. I don't know if Rob Sandstrom pops in, maybe he can let us know if that's the case. But yes, you certainly can use the vacuum table. So let's see. No, I just answered. I hope you heard it. Let me know, Donna, because I have no problem going with it again. And Blake Williamson makes a good point here. Wood Database also lists whether it's in the sites. It's on a sites list, and the IUCN. A word about that. Just because something is on the sites list or the IUCN, and for those of you who don't know, they're tagged as an endangered species or something endangered of going extinct. Just because something is on that list doesn't mean that you can't get it. Because like cocobolo and rosewood, specifically Brazilian rosewood, are both on the sites list. But there are a lot of places where you can still get a hold of it. So, you can occasionally find it privately, just people have a stockpile of it and they're wanting to sell it off. It's just importation of a new supply can sometimes either be limited or forbidden, like ebony. Ebony is very hard to get a hold of. And when you can find it, it's expensive. And what you're finding is not new ebony coming out of South America or Africa. You're finding things that people have had laying around and are just getting rid of it, or taking apart old constructions. For instance, I have a friend back east in Massachusetts, Daniel Haryu, who runs a business called the Country Bed Shop. And his specialty is in restoring, repairing, and recreating antique beds. And we're talking about museum quality with 5-digit price tags and a couple with 6-digit price tags. That good of quality. And some of the beds he gets in to restore are made of American chestnut, which is basically extinct. But there are enough constructions back there in New England that were made out of American chestnut that when they take down an old barn or something like that, they're coming up with pieces of chestnut that he can get to use to build or restore a bed. So just because it's on the sites list doesn't mean that you can't get it. It just means that new supplies, if they come in, are going to be expensive. I mean, I know a luthier back east who paid $125 for a piece of black and white ebony for a fretboard. So that fretboard by itself was $125. And that, I don't know about you, but that's too rich for my blood. So, let's see. Donna wants to know what toolpath depth is best to resurface. that is basically going to be down to how much you have built up. Um, what Shane and Rob do, and what I plan on doing when I finally get this pirate poured, is they set the Z0 to the material surface without the epoxy on it, set the depth of cut in the CAM program in the toolpath, set the depth of cut to 0, and it'll just glide across and just machine off everything that's above that surface. It doesn't technically take anything off. Then they have another toolpath saved and G code saved that takes off just like 10 thousandths of an inch, just an infinitesimal amount. And then they do the entire surface that way if necessary. But you got to be careful when you're machining that epoxy down, because you can remove detail, and the deeper you cut, the more detail you remove. So if you look at Shane Peters on Instagram, you will see that there are times, and his videos go by real quick because you're only given a minute on Instagram, but you will see there are times that he will surface before he's finished pouring, because what he needs to do is go in and carve into the surface and pour some real small details. So he'll go in and surface so the majority of it is done, then engrave and pour those details, and then surface the entire thing again. So just remove as little as possible. And for that, it's just like surfacing a spoil board. I use a pocket toolpath and remove as little as possible. So hope that answers that. Whoops, I just clicked on another one, but Don Loftus wants to know any laser info for Onefinity. I would refer you to Onefinity. I don't know anything about a Onefinity machine, what its controller is. I have no idea about a laser. I don't even know if that's an option for a Onefinity. I would check with them. I know they have a great support community on Facebook. That's about it. I don't know anything at all about the Onefinity machine. So, let's see. Bob Dart wants to know, do you know what RPM they run the surfacing bit at for the epoxy? No, sir, I do not. But when if Rob checks in, he'll be checking in pretty soon. I will ask, and we'll see what happens. Now, I know they both use a very large surfacing bit. In fact, I've got one right here based on their recommendation. And that's the Amana. See, it's the RC 2255. That's a 2.5 inch bit with a 1/2 inch shank. And it's a monster. And it needs to run at a slower RPM. In fact, it says right here on the box in big red letters with an exclamation mark. You probably can't read it. Yeah, maybe you can. Max RPM 18,000. So less than 18,000 basically. I don't know what RPM they run it at, but I will find out. And I'm not to that point yet. I mean, I'm getting there. I am so close, but just a lot of things going on in the background. So one of the things going on in the background you can probably see is in my background. I got my dust collector mounted on a frame, temporarily mounted to the wall. Dust deputy sitting right there. The rest of the dust collector sitting off to the side. And I need to do some adjustment because, as you can see, that's a pretty kinky hose right there connecting the motor to the dust collector. That's going to get changed. And I've got a piece of pipe standing up right there. I've got to plumb the rest of it. Then my dust collector is assembled. That's just one of the things that's going on behind the scenes. I know it sounds like I'm keeping secrets. I'm really not. I kind of am, but I'm really not. More will be revealed. And it's a good thing for everybody involved. So let's see. I have another question here. John Thompson says, when are you going to talk about your members channel thing? Well, that is channel membership. And I've got a video coming out it should be out next week that will explain what the channel membership is. Basically, you can think of it as like a monthly subscription. And that's going to, all channel members will have access to a special live, members only live stream on Monday evenings. They are going to be member driven, and top tier members will have the chance to come on and be on the live stream. And we can, work on a project. We can answer questions. We can do deep dives. It's going to be member driven. So you will guide the conversation. You will guide what's happening on that live stream. It's not going to be just another live Q&A like this. These Sunday live Q&As will not change. They're going to be there just the same as they always have been. Channel memberships just gives people a way to support the channel should they want to. And in return, I'm trying to give more value to the people who decide to do that. Now, I've had a couple of people go through the donate buttons down in the description, and they have made recurring monthly donations to my channel. And I thank you guys profusely. I thank you very, very much. But this is instead of doing that, I don't like to mention the donate buttons, and I don't like to talk about that because I feel like I'm panhandling, and this has never been about the money. But if somebody wants to sign up for a monthly subscription, I need to give you something for that, So by inviting people to be on, if they're top tier, and just, getting in there and come on. And again, there would be no time limit either. I mean, if it takes 3 hours, it takes 3 hours. I mean, if Lainey Shaughnessy can do it, why can't we, So, and that's just basically what's going to happen. So there we go. Let's see. Wolfram Herzog says, flattening epoxy I do with less than 10,000 RPM on a 35 millimeter flattening bit. If it still melts, reduce further to 7,000 or spray some water for cooling. I don't think they go down that low. And I don't know what type of epoxy you're using. I know that Shane uses West Systems, but he has used others. But I don't know if they go down that slow. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Let's see here. Will there be an annual membership one time yearly? I don't know anything about how YouTube does that. This is through YouTube. I don't think they do an annual thing. I think it's a recurring monthly thing. This is new to me too. One thing that I do know is folks are going to have to get used to using that community tab, because that's where links are going to be posted. And members only, it will be posted for members only, and that's where the link to the live stream will be posted at. So you'll have to go to my channel. I think as a member, it'll also show up in your subscription feed, but I'm not 100% certain on that. So you'll have to go to my channel, hit that community link, and there it'll be. And if you go do that now, you'll see a bunch of stuff maybe you hadn't seen before, because I do post over there, not as regularly as I should. But let's see. RB Woodwork says, I have the same dust collection, made an adapter on the CNC and put a filter in place of the bag. Yeah, this is just temporary, as I said. I'm toying with two ideas, and this may be a good time to ask about this because I think I'm caught up on the questions besides. What I had planned on doing was when I get it moved out into the enclosed lean-to on the back, what I had planned on doing was just dumping it outside, running the exhaust straight outside and not worry about a filter. But the more I think about it, especially with summer coming along and knowing how hot it gets out here, what I would be effectively doing is sucking all the air conditioning right outside. So I'm thinking about putting a vent down low and off to over here on this side of the shop with the dust collector over there and allowing that air to recirculate back in from out there into here. That would mean I would need to go with a filter. So, but nothing that tight. I mean, that bag is supposed to be 5 micron. I think that's fine because I could put a filter on that vent that's bringing the air back in here and just make that a replaceable furnace filter that I can remove and replace every 30 days. So I don't know. What's your input? What do you think? Basically, I don't want to lose all that air conditioned air in the summertime and all that heat in the wintertime. So, and that's, basically the same thing as leaving your bathroom fan on while you have the heater running. I mean, it's sucking all that hot air right outside of the house. So, yeah, RB, exactly. Same in the winter. So, let's see here. Dennis Fegan says, have you attended the Vectric user group meetings in the past? Any thoughts? I'm trying to decide if I'll go. I have not. This September will be my first, and I'll be doing a presentation there. So I will be able to answer your questions after I get back in September. Personally, I can't wait because I'm going to get a chance to meet people I've only met online. And gosh, my nose is itching like crazy. I apologize. Having gone to a couple of woodworking shows in the past, one being in Atlanta in 2017, where I got to stay at Dave Gatton's house and met him face to face for the first time. I met a whole bunch of people there. And I'm here to tell you, that made the show. That right there was worth the trip. Just going and meeting the people I'd only chatted with online, because it's completely different. It's 100% different. So that right there, that networking and talking and getting together over dinner or for drinks or what have you, that right there is worth it. This year's user group meeting in the US is in San Diego, California. If you go to Vectric's website, Vectric.com, you cannot miss the banner they have on top for the 2022 user group meeting. You can't miss it. And you click on that link and it'll take you and tell you where the venue is, but it's in San Diego, California this year. They've tried for 2 years in the past to get it going, a live user group meeting. And because of COVID and international travel restrictions, they haven't been able to do it. This is the first one on the West Coast that I'm aware of, and you can bet I'm going to be there, especially because I complained so much about people don't do shows on the West Coast in public. So, Michael Mizalik is one of the people I cannot wait to meet. He's going to be disappointed that I'm as short as I am, but what can I say? Been to 12 shows, spoke at 7 of them, and they're well worth it. Yeah, I think that the networking alone and getting to actually shake hands with people that you've only conversed with online, I think that's more than worth its weight in gold myself. And I would not have traded the experience of going to Atlanta and meeting Dave and getting to stay at his house I wouldn't have traded that for the world. That alone was worth the trip. So I would highly encourage you to go. But I say this as a guy who's never been to one myself. So we'll see. Okay, let's see. Dwayne Ruthig says, I replaced the bag with a filter and left the system in the shop to avoid the winter makeup air problem. Yeah, and that makes perfectly good sense. Now, I do plan on insulating the lean-to basically for sound, because I'm in a residential neighborhood and nobody wants to hear a compressor running out there. So it'll need to be ventilated, obviously. And I figure by putting a couple of vents out there, that would not only ventilate the lean-to for the compressor and for the dust collector, but that would allow any air that gets sucked into either one of them to come back into here. So, oh wow, you're not going to this one, Michael? Oh man. Well, okay, missed my chance. I got to warn you. I'm old, I don't fly. So if I can't drive there, I don't need to be there. So the last flight I was on was going to Atlanta, Georgia in 2017 and back. And that just kind of cemented it for me. Commercial air travel has become a genuine pain, but I'm old. I remember the days long before even metal detectors. So walking out onto the tarmac and climbing stairs. But yeah, I don't fly anymore. Sorry. We'll figure something out, Michael. Okay. Let's see here. Some people talking about lasers, which I know absolutely nothing about. Let's see. Kind of looking to see if maybe Rob Sandstrom has joined us, but I don't see him. Donna, I'm in a very small town about 30 miles north of the California border. I'm in Oregon, and a little town nobody's ever heard of that is near Medford, Medford being the biggest city in Southern Oregon. But that's kind of like being valedictorian in summer school. There's only 200,000 people in this entire county. So, so let's see here. Rob Schuster says, hope to be there, but scheduling might be an issue. Well, I mean, if you're there, Rob, great. I look forward to it. If you're not, well, and never say never. I mean, the next one may be in Denver, and I can probably drive to Denver. But Atlanta, no. Tampa, no. Sorry. So, and I know that didn't go over well with the folks at Vectric either when we were talking about that. They never said anything, but the look on their faces were like, we're flying from the UK and you won't fly across the country? Nope, sorry. I'm old. Let's see. Richard Farwell says, I'd really like to go to San Diego, but health may be in the way. Well, take care of yourself, Richard. I mean, good grief. Try taking the train. If I go, that'll be the way I travel from Central California. Let's see. The train, I would have to go. Well, yeah, I could catch the train, I think, in Klamath Falls. Not sure where I'd have to go to catch a train. And I even thought about doing that for San Diego because it's a 2-day drive. So for us, but that's okay. I like to take my time. Let's see. Donna says she's in the Bay Area. Okay. I grew up in the Bay Area. I grew up in Fremont. Well, I spent 10 years there. So, let's see here. Okay, looks like we're kind of okay. RB Woodwork says lots bigger than my town, 875. Yeah, it is bigger than that, but not by much. I believe there are not quite 8,000 people in this town. So it is bigger. But it's one of those cases of if you don't know somebody, you know somebody who does know them. And just wait 6 months, they'll marry into your family. So, in fact, I've told my grandkids, be careful who you date because they may be your cousin. I mean, I tell folks I'm so local, I'm related to myself. I was born 7 miles down the road from me. My father was born, well, I could throw a rock and almost hit the building. It's about a quarter mile away from me right now. My family's been here since 1866, so in this same valley. So, yeah, I'm so local, I'm related to myself. All right, we're now just chit chatting. So let me go ahead and end this so you guys can get along with your afternoon. Tom says, how about Alaska? Always, always wanted to go to Alaska. Don't ask me why. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment. And I'll be honest with you, driving the Alcan Highway would be an adventure that I think would be fun. Now, I know it's just as far to drive to Canada as it is to drive to Atlanta or something like that. But come on. I mean, I've driven I-10, I've driven I-40, I've driven I-80. I've never driven the Alcan. How could you turn that adventure down? So never say never, Tom. I mean, you drove down here, for goodness sake. I believe you drove. Anyway, all right, we're just chit chatting now. So I'm going to go ahead and end this to let you guys get on with your Sunday. As I was saying before, channel memberships will start June 1st is when I'll publish. Look for a video in the next couple of days that will introduce the concept of channel memberships. And if you click the join button when it goes live, it'll link you to another video that'll explain a little bit more on it. Again, the main benefit to channel memberships is access to the members only live streams on Monday evenings. And top tier members will get the chance to come on with me on camera here, and we'll do a tech check and everything beforehand and then get going. And you are going to drive, you are going to decide what it's going to be about. I can do deep dives. We can work on whatever you'd like. So that'll start June 1st. And let me check my calendar to make sure. The first member live stream should be on Monday, June 6th. And that'll be at, gosh, I got to go back and look because I don't remember what time I said, but we've got some time. You'll find out in the introduction video, and that should be up in the next couple of days. Okay. Let's go. Donna Patello wants to know if I do one-on-one. No, I'm sorry. I do not do one-on-one instruction. And that is simply because there aren't enough hours in the day. I wish I could. I really wish I could, but I just can't. So, and I've tried about 52 different ways to make that happen, and it just isn't. So there's always a scheduling conflict. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up by saying I'll get these links in the description of this video ASAP. So until next week, open Q&A, bring more questions. I'll have more answers, even if that answer is, I don't know. And until then, y'all take care. Go do something cool. Get out in the shop or rest up from being in the shop. Have fun. Y'all take care. And thank you